The much-awaited and the long-pending Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Bill has been deferred by the Union Cabinet once again. Apparently, some ministers wanted more time to study the proposed legislation and they said their views were not considered. It almost seems that India cannot bring the much-needed change in a century-old act which still governs the acquisition of the most precious resource of the country, which is land. What's holding the Land Acquisition Bill now? And is this a blessing in disguise that it has got pushed out again? Well, we've got a very eminent panel here with me. Let me start by introducing them. We've got Sunil Mantri joining us from our Mumbai office. He is the chairman of Mantri Realty. Sunil, thanks for being here. We've also got Naveen Raheja on my right, Vinayak Chatterjee and Sameer Jasuja. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Of course, it's a panel which is a little heavy on the real estate industry, but we do have Vinayak and he's a voice good enough to actually just carry forward the infrastructure point of view. Remember, real estate and infrastructure are very closely connected. You really do need both to go hand in hand. You know, while accepting many of the recommendations of the Parliamentary Standing Committee, the government decided not to accept the committee's recommendation that said that government should not acquire land for PPP projects as public-private projects. The Rural Development Ministry in its response has said that in a developing economy like India, government intervention is required to facilitate development and government will acquire lands for PPP projects and private companies. So I think the first thing, Vinayak, that we'd like to know is after the government, there was a huge furor once the parliamentary committee said that there should be no role of the government, but they've made that change in their stance. In the current form, is there anything big which really catches your attention, which needs a change or could be a dampener for infrastructure?
Not really. You know, you must remember that right from the beginning when the first draft of the bill was created, there were two areas that were under what is known as eminent domain, which means the state had the right to acquire land for public purpose, and that was defense and infrastructure. So right from the beginning, infrastructure has been treated a little differently.
Right.
The two issues that scared us, one was this, when it had gone to the Standing Committee of Parliament, the first issue was that should it be allowed to acquire under eminent domain? Which eminent domain means you don't have to ask for 80%, etc., because it's under public purpose. Would PPP projects be included? So I think from industry we all represented saying the last P is partnership and that government in many projects has significant shareholding and they're in the nature of utilities. So it should fall under eminent domain. So that I think has been accepted by the government. The second was a smaller scare where the deliberations of the Standing Committee said that eminent domain should be applicable only for linear infrastructure. Right. Now, linear means highways, irrigation canals, transmission towers, roads, etc. Now, a large part of infrastructure, I mean, we found it hilarious that the introduction of high school geometry into the definition of infrastructure, I mean, a power plant cannot be called linear, nor can an airport, nor a port. So, between definitions of linearity, ellipticality, circularity, etc., we said, like, look, this one is really funny. So I think they've dropped that. So far as the infrastructure sector is concerned, we broadly fall under the eminent domain. We are not affected by 80% votes and all the other stuff. We do recognize our liability to take care of livelihoods, etc. And therefore, to be frank with you, at a conceptual level, we don't have a fundamental objection to the draft as it exists.
What do you think would be the fundamental differences that, let's say, Mr. Kamal Nath would have or a Mr. Veerappa Moily would have? Because if fundamentally, okay, this might be source-based information, but it is very valid information. This is basically to protect farmers, as you told me just a while ago. So what would these ministries have an issue with now?
Well, I suspect, see, on infrastructure, they wouldn't have too much of an issue because to my mind, there isn't very much issue left. It is under eminent domain.
So is it an ego issue?
No, it isn't. But I think they would be concerned about some areas where I would feel that urban infrastructure, after all, the bill is being piloted by the Rural Ministry. Broadly, our real estate play is largely, not necessarily, but largely in urban areas. So I would suspect that Mr. Kamal Nath and others might need some more time to fine-tune some elements of detail, I would say. Because at the broad structural level, from the infra side, I can say that we don't have any major objections under eminent domain. But I think my gentlemen on the left and right could be better poised to answer that question.
All right, so infrastructure seems to be sorted out, and we can say that Vinayak's voice is fairly representative of the larger industry. So let's get down to real estate. But the larger question, and I spoke to Sumitra Mahajan, who chaired the parliamentary committee, who said she's really not surprised that the revised bill has got pushed out further. There are ministries which have issues with it. According to her, the government hasn't really done enough consultations with either the state governments or even going down to as much as the panchayati level. Sunil Mantri, maybe you can't comment on the ministries, but overall, do you think that the consultation process hasn't been enough?
I believe the consultation process has done very well, in my opinion. I think all the state government as well as the individual groups, various associations were represented before the standing committee, and we have given an opportunity to put forward our views, suggestions in the bill. I think I will come back to the first infra, which you raised the point right now. My worry is that the compensation 3 to 6 times will adversely affect the infrastructure project. For example, I would like to give an example close by to Mumbai metropolitan region. The Mumbai airport project will get badly affected if you are required to pay 6 times the compensation. So we really look what is the compensation amount really required to be paid, and which is the project which is important from the infra angle to the country, not for a specific city. So I have a concern because it's a huge demand of the farmer. What you must have noticed, the farmers are demanding 20 crore per acre as a compensation, and the airports need a couple of 1,000 acre land to be acquired. So the whole project likely become unviable. So these are the basic concerns. We need the airport for city to grow. We need flyovers. We need the roads. And my concern is that huge compensation in the infrastructure is really a cause of worry. I think it has to be a reasonable compensation required to be only paid if the infrastructure project for the city or the country is to be developed in a particular region.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.